February the 12th, the 12th, 1925, in a little town called Hubbard, Arizona. And if you wonder where Hubbard, Arizona is, it's about 5 miles across the river from Thatcher. It's close to Pima, about 5 miles from Pima. But it was just a little farming community, and I was born in Grandma and Grandpa's home there. We didn't go to the hospital then, just in the home. And I was the 8th child out of 11. My parents had those before me, 2 of them before me died, and so I grew up with a family of 9. I had 4 older sisters. I had 4 sisters, and then I had 3 younger brothers, and anyway, I was in the middle. But there was 11 of us all total. My parents had picked out the name of Priscilla to name me. And then one day, just before I was to be blessed, they went to Safford to buy Ethel, my oldest sister, a pair of shoes. And on the shoe box, it said, Theola Shoe Company. And my sister says, "Oh, Mom, that's such a pretty name. Let's name her that." So that's where I got my name, Theola. Reed informed me shortly after his first baby was born. He says, "Mom, don't take offense," but he says, "We're not going to name any of our children after you." So anyway, I didn't remember too much until we moved. We moved from Hubbard to a little town called Bryce, which was colonized by my Bryce ancestors. And then we lived there for a while, and then we moved to a little town called Glenbar, which was just about 3 miles from Pima. It was just a little farming area, all these farms in Glenbar, but the closest town was Pima. And on this farm is where I remember I have my earliest childhood memories. And they were great memories. We had a very modest home. It was just a little, really a shack, but we thought it was pretty nice. And my mother and dad, they always kept the place so nice and clean. The home was always a neat place, and then we always kept the outside nice. Of course, Dad had the farm, and all of us helped with the farm chores and with the home housework there. One thing about our home, we didn't have any electricity. Can you imagine living in a home with no electricity? You walk in a house and no lights. Remember when some of the lights go out when we were up to the cabin and here no lights? Well, we would, at dark time, Mom would get the lamp. Yes?
Candle.
Oh, we didn't use candles very much because we were afraid of fire. But we did have a lamp that was about this tall, and we used kerosene in it. And it had a wick that would come from the kerosene up into it, and then it had a globe. We'd take this globe off, and then we'd light the wick, and then this would be the light for the house. We'd have several of these lights around the house. And then it was sufficient, but it wasn't bright like this. And then we didn't have any running water in our house. Can you imagine not having any running water? And we had to carry all of our water in the house, and we would carry it in buckets from outside. We usually had a well outside, but I remember one home we lived in, we didn't even have a well, so we'd have to carry all of our water, truck it from Pima down to where we lived. We'd put it in big barrels. But then
did your TV work on kerosene too?
TV, what was that? We, no running water. And so, any water we had, we'd have to put it on we had a wood burning stove. We didn't have no electricity, no gas in our house. So all we had was, we heated by a fireplace, or seemed like they did get some oil stoves of some kind, and that's how they heated the house. But the worst part was we didn't have any inside bathrooms. And not even a bathroom. And so I can remember, of course we had to have what they called an outhouse down the hill a ways from our place. And that's where we always had to go, down the hill a ways. And then, when we wanted a bath, I can remember we'd only have about 2 baths a week. the rest of the time we'd have wash basins, and we'd wash the wash basins, and we took it, we kept ourselves clean, but we just had the wash basin. But every Saturday night, that was come for sure, we'd bring this number 3 bathtub, heat water on the wood burning stove, and put the big tub close to the stove. We'd each have our baths. We hoped we were the first one to have the bath, because the water was much cleaner the first bath.
You had to use the same water.
They have to use the same water, because there were so many of us, we'd keep adding hot water to the tub. But it was great. We thought we were really living and we were really happy. Like Rod says, what, no TV? No, we didn't have any TV. So we had to make our own fun. We had to make our own games. I can remember playing paper dolls. We didn't go to the store and buy paper dolls, but we had the Sears and Roebuck catalog. And so we would cut out the paper dolls, and we'd cut out the furniture, and we'd cut out the whatever there was, and we'd make these playhouses out of, seemed like we'd use some kind of a cord or a ribbon or something to separate the rooms with. But we'd play for hours with these paper dolls. One of my fondest memories was just about a 1/4 of a mile from my home was this family. They had a family the same size as ours, and the kids just seemed like we'd all fit in and with each other. And there was one girl whose name was Florence, and she was my childhood friend, and Florence Preston Root. And we've remained friends all through the years, and I still do things with her and talk to her on the phone. But we used to play together and have more fun together. And I can remember one time we took some old tin cans and made a mailbox, and we put this mailbox halfway between our homes. And so we'd walk about a 1/4 of a mile to write a little note to my friend Florence. And then maybe an hour later I'd walk back to the mailbox to see if she'd written me a note. And we kind of kept this thing going for a while. And then another great thing we used to do was go on picnics all the time. Florence and some of her brothers, she had an older brother and I had an older brother, and she had younger brothers that fit in, and we'd go on the picnics. It seemed like she always brought her onion sandwich, and that was her favorite. But then some of the games that we played were Annie I Over. Do any of you know what that is?
I think I do.
It was, you have to have just a certain type of house to play Annie I Over. It has to have a pitched roof. And you get one team on one side, and one team on the other side. And then you throw the ball over, and if you catch the ball, I think it was 3 times, but then you could come around, and if you could catch someone and hit them with the ball, well, then you were the winner.
We used to play that.
at Erie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I can remember that.
Well, even at Sunset House we used to play it.
Yeah, I remember
played it
playing
then.
at Sunset.
And then we'd play games like Run, Sheep, Run. Do they play those anymore, Matthew? And
I don't know
And
Run
what
Sheep
that
and
is?
Run either. I've heard of it.
well,
They're too cool.
and then we play Kick the Can. Did you ever play Kick the Can?
Yeah, I played that. I played that.
And Tag. We would always play Tag.
I love tag.
But then some of the toys that they would make, and I remember one Christmas, one of my brothers made me some stilts, and I thought that was the neatest thing in the world. You take a long piece of board and then you put a little kind of a step thing on it with a strap over it, and then your feet fit in there, and you're walking about this far up in the air. Did he make some? Either that or else to take tin cans and put string around them and walk on the tin cans, and that was our toys. And then we used to walk the barrels. We always had these big barrels used for a lot of purposes on the farm, but we would get these big barrels and walk on them. And or else we'd get a tire, and somebody would curl up inside the tire, and then they'd roll them, roll them, and roll them, and roll them. Many times you could get sick from that. And then in the evening time, every night we'd play out. We just really had a good time playing out with either the family, brothers and sisters, or else some of the neighbors' kids would come over, and it was just a great time for us all to be together. After it got dark, we'd go in the house, and we'd usually pop popcorn, and Mom and Dad would read us a story or tell us stories, or else my mother played the organ, and we all loved to get around and sing with her around the organ, and that was lots of fun. We all had chores we had to do when we lived on this farm, and one of mine was I had to churn the butter, and we had a thing about this big, and you'd just slosh it up and down, and you'd put the cream in the churn, and then you just slosh it up and down, slosh it up and down until you got a butter ball. And then after you got the butter ball, you'd mix it all up and add salt to it, and that was our butter. So I can remember we milked cows, and Dad would bring, after you'd separate it, and he'd bring the cream in the house, and Mom would put it in a big bowl and let it sit all night. I can remember we as kids would get up the next morning and take a piece of homemade bread and take some of that cream off that. Makes me sick now. But put cream on top of that toast or bread and then sprinkle it with sugar.
You know
Oh,
what,
that
we
was
used
so
to do
good.
that in Mexico on my mission though. We'd take
Did
the
you?
cream and put it on our bread and then put jam on top of that. So good.
It was, I thought it was
Rich,
wonderful then, but now
Oh.
it makes me sick to even think about it.
It was good.
So, and then another one of my jobs was to gather the eggs. I always had to go gather the eggs or clean the hen
From the
house.
chickens?
Not the chickens.
Snakes.
And that was the worst. One time, I think I've told some of the kids about this, but one time I went to reach in to get an egg and there was a snake.
Oh, Mommy told me that.
Well,
You used to tell us about the
yeah, that was very frightening. Some of my other jobs was I had to help Mom cook, and of course I didn't do too much, but I did help her a little bit, and clean the house some. But my worst job, and I hated it more than anything, was to herd the turkeys. Any of you had to herd turkeys? They are the dumbest animal that ever was. And we'd have to keep them out of the, Dad and Mom would raise these turkeys and then they'd sell them at Thanksgiving time. But we had a big garden and we had to keep them out of the garden, so that was my
Because
job.
so they wouldn't eat the.
Eat the garden.
I didn't know you had turkeys.
Oh yeah, we did, we had turkeys. And then, another one of my jobs was when Papa or Grandpa and the boys would cut the hay, the green hay, then they would load it on a big wagon pulled with a horse and wagon. They had a horse and wagon. They'd throw this green hay up on top of the wagon, and it was my job to get up on top of it and tromp it down so they could pack more. Every once in a while, the boys, just to be mean and ornery to me, would throw a snake up on the wagon, and boy, I'd come scooting off. I'm not going to do it anymore. And then just laugh and think that was funny, and Dad would say, okay, they won't do it anymore, they won't do it anymore. So I'd get back up there and tromp it again. Here come another snake. They were king snakes or some snakes that wouldn't hurt me, but just the thoughts of snakes would scare me. And then another one of my jobs was babysitting. And if you think I got rich babysitting, I got 25 cents a night for babysitting.
Oh.
Yeah, and sometimes I had 2 or 3 children to take care of, and there'd leave the dishes for me to do. So,
This was other these were other families,
oh,
Mom?
2 or 3 now, huh?
These were other families, or?
Yeah, other families, other
Uh-huh.
families. But I got paid 25 cents. So,
There were
Did
no
you
stores
think
to
that was
spend
much
that anyway.
oh yeah, that was
You
money.
thought that was pretty good money?
That was good money. I was
Mom,
happy to have that.
But were
But,
there any stores to spend that anyway?
oh yeah, 3 miles away.
That's how I started.
That's as I got older. You know, I was like 13, 14 when I
Yeah.
started babysitting. But every Saturday, I can remember, we always made preparation for Sunday. And so we had to clean the house. We'd always wash our car so we'd have a nice clean car to go to church in, I remember.
You
And
fit
then-
one of my teeth.
Then we'd make sure Mom would have us make sure our
Amy.
Sunday clothes were
Amy.
suitable to wear.
Turn off the kitchen light.
And then we had to always polish our shoes, have our shoes all polished and shiny. These things we did early in the daytime, and then in the afternoon or evening we always cleaned our yard. We'd rake the leaves, and then that night we'd make a big bonfire. And then we'd come in Saturday night and have our bath. That was our program.
So you didn't get to play with friends on Saturday?
It didn't seem like we played too much on Saturday. We played during the rest of the time. So church was always a very important part in my life. My parents always set such a good example because they were always going to their meetings and taking care of their responsibilities. My dad was bishop when I was born, and Mom had been relief society president and the primary president, and they just were all very active. And we always had family prayer in our home, and we always had our individual prayers, and we were taught to pray and to love the Lord and try to do the things that we knew were right. We didn't have a lot of money, but we never really felt poor. We felt like, well, we probably had as much as anybody else did at that time, because it was kind of during the Depression and nobody really had a lot of money. But we did have plenty of things to eat because we lived on a farm. We had our pigs, we had our chickens, we had our beef. Turkeys. Eggs, yeah. So
Snakes.
Yeah, snakes, yeah. We had all these things.
Did your mom make your bread?
Yes, Mother made the bread. We always had nothing else.
No bread makers back then.
No bread makers. Some of my fondest memories were coming home from school and my mother always having something hot and good for us to eat. If she didn't have that, well, then I can remember making a lettuce and tomato sandwich. That was it. Rod turned up his nose. We always
Like Homer
had.
Simpson right there.
We always had vegetables from the garden, and we always had a corn patch in the seasons, and sugar cane, and that was always a special treat.
What did you do with the sugar cane?
I don't remember except eat it. I don't
You
remember.
just
Just
chew
for
on it?
fun. Chew it. Yeah, Dad would just plant a few extra on the corn rolls, and we'd have it just for eating. And so, and I remember not having, like I say, we didn't have much money, and once in a while, quite often we'd say, "Can we have some money to buy candy with?" And Mom said, "Well, I don't have any money, but you can take an egg." So we'd get an egg, go out in the chicken coop and get an egg, take it down to the store, and then trade it to us for candy. Give it to us for candy. And that was
You should
what
try
we
that little store up at the
Yeah. So, I went to school all my school years, from first grade to the 12th in Pima schools. And I love school, and I love to learn, and I love to be with friends. It was really something I look forward to every year. But I especially liked recesses because we had so much fun, and we had jack contests, we had jumping rope contests, and several times I was a jack champion, jack playing champion. And then, one of the things I always remember though, was coming home from school, I would always walk in the house, "Mom!" That was the first thing I'd say, and all the kids did, is start looking for Mom. And I remember sometimes, if we find Mom, that was fine, we'd go about our business. But sometimes Mom would hide just to see what we'd do. We'd go all over the house looking for her, and then finally when we'd find her, why, it was okay. And what'd you want? Oh, nothing, we just want to know you're here. So, then I went to high school course in Pima, and like I say, I liked school, but I think I liked the sports and things better, and I played in all the sports. I especially liked volleyball. I was on the tennis team, and I was on the basketball team, and I was on the softball team.
Badminton, weren't you?
Well, that came later, when I went to college. And then I was a cheerleader at the Pima High School for 2 years. And wore little short skirts, except we didn't wear short ones. We wore them just barely above our knees. And that was as high as we went. I always belonged to the choruses and singing groups. I love to sing, so I always tried to be in the choruses and the singing groups. When I graduated from high school, there were only 13 people in my graduating class. So the school was actually bigger than that, but it was during the wartime. It was 1943, and so many of the boys quit school to join the service. And so we had 5 boys and 8 girls that graduated from my class.
Was this from high school?
High school, yeah. And then I went on to junior college there in Thatcher for 1 year. And that's where I belonged to I had played the championship there and I was the badminton champion there. And then I sang in the college chorus, and I sang in the college trio in that college. Then I went to 1 year ASU and 1 semester at BYU.
Now, how did you go, like, at ASU, what were you going for? A teaching degree or what? Why didn't you continue to go to Thatcher, and why did you go to?
Well, I don't know, I just went to Thatcher. I had to work. I didn't have money to go to school, so
Yeah.
I'd work for a year, and then I'd go to school, and then I'd go back and work for a year, and then I'd go to school.
And then what made you decide to go like to BYU?
Well, that was after Daddy Brown died.
Oh, okay.
So I just was telling you how much schooling I had.
Oh, okay.
A big thing in our lives there in Pima was to go to the theater. Every Tuesday they had what they called a family home evening and a family home night. And we bought 1 ticket for $1 and the whole family could go for $1. And so we took advantage of that. And I remember one time we went right after school and I met the parents. We were going to meet the parents there, but of course we sat with our friends. And I just had a brand new permanent. And I was sitting there, a bunch of us girls were sitting there in the row of seats, and it was in the wintertime, and all of a sudden somebody just jerked my hair, just, that perm, and this guy walked by, was going through to get his seat, and his button got caught in that new perm.
Oh.
that new perm, that button
Curls,
on my
tight
hair.
curls.
What?
Tight curls.
Yeah, it was just real kinky curly, and it just got that caught in my hair.